Hello, and welcome to this webinar on what you need to know when notifying hazardous mixtures to appointed bodies so that the information can be made available to poison centres for the purposes of an emergency health response. My name is Heidi Rasakari, and today I will be your moderator. Due to the exceedingly large number of registrants for this webinar, we will be rerunning what you see here today on the 10th of October. This webinar is relevant to industry who may have obligations to notify hazardous mixtures as a result of Annex 8 of the CLP regulation, as well as the appointed bodies and poison centres who will receive and use the information contained therein. In today's webinar, we will explain the current status of the ECHA-related Poison Centre project. You will also hear about the outcome of the feasibility study for the Poison Centre notification portal, and you will also hear from industry some ideas on how to start getting prepared for the deadlines. You can submit your questions related to the presentations seen here today at any time during the webinar through the Q&A panel visible in your webinar window. If you are experiencing any technical problems, then please use this panel to let us know and we will help you fix the issue. Our panelists are on standby to answer your questions through the Q&A panel, and we will endeavour to answer as many as possible. However, if you do not receive an answer before the end of the webinar, you can always resubmit your question to your National Help Desk or to the ECHA Help Desk. The ECHA Help Desk can be contacted using the address on your screen. This webinar will be also published on our YouTube channel as well as on the ECHA website. So, let's first start with a status update on the ECHA Poison Centre project presented by Mercedes Viñas.
Thank you, Heidi, and hello, everyone. My name is Mercedes Viñas, and I'm heading the dossier submission and PIC unit here in ECHA. In the next 10 minutes, I'm going to give you an overview of where we are with the Poison Centres project and all the different aspects included in this project. This project started when the new annex to the CLP regulation was published earlier this year, in March 2017. The new annex gave new obligations for importers and downstream users that place hazardous mixtures on the EU market, giving them an obligation to notify information on emergency health response to the national appointed bodies. This needs to be done following different deadlines, depending on the end use of the hazardous mixture. If the hazardous mixture is for consumer use, the information needs to be submitted to the appointed bodies by 2020. If it's for professional use or industrial use, the different deadlines are 2021 and 2024. And there is a transition period ending in 2025 for mixtures that were already in the market before this obligation started. The Annex 8 gave new obligations for ECHA to give support, technical and scientific guidance, and tools to facilitate the submission of information. These tools and guidance and support include a format for the notification that needs to be submitted to the appointed bodies, a product categorization system that provides the different categories that need to be used to classify the products that are on the market in a harmonized way, the unique formula identifier generator that generates a unique identifier for each mixture placed on the market, and then the potential development of a central notification portal. This became apparent when it realized that there was a harmonized format for notification of mixtures across Europe. Then the question came up, why don't we build a central notification portal so that companies can notify centrally and then member states don't need to develop a notification portal in the different member states? But we will hear more about this later. Finally, it gave ECHA the mandate to provide guidance and support material for all the different actors having new obligations under this annex. So where are our timelines? This year, we are working to finalize the tools, meaning the format, the generator, and the product categorization system. We aim to have them available early next year. We're also starting with the preparation of all the support material that needs to be made available later on. And we're also conducting a feasibility study on this central notification portal to conclude whether it's feasible and also to see how it may look like and what it means for ECHA. Next year, we will start the development of this central portal, according to what is decided following this feasibility study. We will also continue working on the guidance and support material so that it's completed on time for the first notification deadline. The aim is therefore that in 2019 we will have all the formats, the tools, the guidance, and all the support material in place, and the central portal ready, at least in its first version. We also have a Poison Centers website live. You can access it through the ECA website, and also you have the direct link on your slides. We are also going to have soon the outcome of the feasibility study on the central notification portal available on this website. And we're also having 3 different working groups where we are working with our stakeholders to produce all this material. We have a guidance working group, we have a working group that looks after the product categorization system, and we also have a working group that is taking care of all the different IT tools. But let's look at all of these different aspects in a bit more detail. We start with the guidance and support. We are developing a guidance document in 2 phases. We are currently under the phase 1, which is taking care of a drafting. There is a very active involvement of authorities and industry via the working group, and we are planning a workshop in early December to put together all the various inputs that we have received so that we can have a first draft ready by the end of the year. We will then go to a phase 2, where we will start a formal consultation with all the different partners, with all the different stakeholders. We will launch this consultation in Q1 of next year, so the final guidance can be ready by the end of 2018. But there is more support. We are having questions and answers published on the Poison Centers website, and they are regularly updated. So we invite you to visit this webpage for new updates. We're also working on targeted support for companies. This is under development, and we're planning to make it available as soon as possible. You will hear more of this later. We're also planning to train the National Help Desk so that you can ask them all the different questions in your own language, and you have readily available help. Finally, we are planning to make a fact sheet available on the unique formula identifier so that you can have answers to all the different questions that may arise when you try to generate these unique identifiers for your products. Now let's look at the product categorization system, the PCS. This system provides product categories for the different products in the market. The idea is that this information is included in the notifications so that companies can assign the relevant product category to their products when they notify. It is a single selection based on the main intended use of this mixture. The idea of this system is that it's also supporting appointed bodies at EU level on the reporting and statistical analysis obligation. It can also be used by Poison Centers for backtracking, for example, identifying how many incidents that they receive are related to a specific type of product. In your slide, you can see a very simple supply chain to illustrate what we mean with this product categorization system. You can see the first formulator that places on the market a mixture, a pigment, for example. As this mixture is subsequently added into another formulation that ends up in different products, one of them is consumer. This first mixture needs to be notified by 2020 related to the consumer use deadline. The product category that must be selected in this case is a pigment. This mixture is then reformulated into the final products by the second formulator. The second formulator needs to notify these final products that got into the market. As you can see, we are looking at 3 different products for consumer, professional, and industrial use. They therefore have different deadlines, as we saw at the beginning, in 2020, 2021, and 2024. They also need to be notified according to their corresponding product categories: hobby paints for consumer use, decorative coatings for professional user, and automotive coatings for industrial user. This product categorization system is published in a draft form since early next year on our website. We are aiming to have a final version of it by December this year. We have very active participation for all different industrial sectors, as well as appointed bodies and Poison Centers via the working group. And we're also planning to develop a practical manual that can help companies select the appropriate product category for their products. As this system will be evolving over time, we're also trying to put together a process that will keep it updated and maintained over time. Now let's move to the generation of unique formula identifiers. These identifiers are a set of 16 characters that will be placed on the label of the hazardous mixtures that are on the market. The idea is that you can uniquely identify and link a product that is on the market to a notification that has been sent to our appointed bodies. The purpose of having this code is to allow poison centers to quickly retrieve the information from the corresponding notification via including this UFI code in their system. We have a generator that is a system that allows you to generate already these unique identifiers for your products. But we also have an algorithm with a guide for developers that you can use, discuss with your IT providers so that you can integrate in your system and generate yourself these unique formula identifiers for your products. We also have a notification format coming up. There is a draft format already available, but it is dated from 2015 and is currently obsolete. We are aiming to have a final version by Q1 next year due to the revised information requirements following the publication of this Annex 8, but it will also be aligned with standards format that are already in use on chemicals management, like the Euclid XML format. We will have this final version ready earlier next year, and we hope it's used and prepared by companies on their portfolios. Finally, we are looking into this possibility to develop a central notification portal in ECHA. As I mentioned before, this question came up when realizing that we were having a harmonized format for notifications across the EU. Then it came up the point of why don't we submit centrally, having economies of scale at EU so that we don't need to develop multiple notification portals in the different member states, but instead we will submit one single point centrally in EU. We also aim to ensure a high level of security, having a secure access in a single point instead of multiple entry points across Europe. We aim to increase the efficiency for industry for this process, as well as facilitating exchange of information among member states, in a way that we will leverage the benefit of having harmonized formats for these notifications across Europe. We will hear more about this central notification portal from our colleague Amandine in the next presentation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mercedes. Hello everybody, my name is Amandine Jaumier and I am working in the Poison Centers team at ECHA. In the following slides, I will present to you the outcome of the feasibility study and what are the next steps. Before that, I would like to first present or remind what were the main objectives of this study. Identifying the various stakeholders and analyzing their needs, proposing a solution for the central portal, producing a blueprint of a candidate architecture for the system that will fit into ECHA IT architecture, defining the best approach to the delivery, and providing early estimates of development costs and efforts. So the first objective of the feasibility study was to analyze the needs of the various stakeholders. In the context of a poison center notification portal, the main actors were identified as industry users, appointed bodies, poison centers, and ECHA. Additional stakeholders, such as the Commission, the Member States' competent authorities, and the enforcement authorities were also identified as potential actors. However, their relevant requirements have not been analyzed in this study, and we will consider them in the future. In a few words, the portal will serve to support industry with preparing, updating, and submitting the notifications and dispatch them to the relevant appointed bodies. The portal will ensure security and confidentiality of the data and support the needs of all actors regarding multilingualism. The portal will also provide an automated submission process that will ensure that the submitted files are virus-free and conform to the format specifications. In addition, the portal could support a set of checks or validations to ensure that key elements are included in the notifications. For example, the inclusion of a trade name in the file. However, these validations will first need to be discussed and agreed with the different stakeholders before they become integrated into the submission process. We foresee 3 levels of validations as part of the notification process. Before the actual submission, industry will have access to tools that will inform them about the correctness of the notifications they are about to submit. This will be supported directly within the submission wizard. For example, a mandatory field left empty would be highlighted. A validation tool can also be offered as well as an extra feature. Once the files are submitted, they are validated within the PCN portal according to harmonized technical and business-related checks. Once the file passes those harmonized validations, they are dispatched to the appointed bodies. Appointed bodies have then the possibility to further check the quality of the received information. Those quality checks are performed at national levels. What will be the best approach to develop this portal? The proposal is a phased rollout that will reduce the risk and offer the possibility to test changes before it moves to full implementation. In that way, it can support ongoing modification and improvement. Stakeholders can test the system and provide opinions, improvements as the project evolves. This staggered approach for the delivery would consist in developing a first minimum viable product, MVP, in 2018 that will be followed with a major release in Q3 2019. Therefore, all features that have been identified as core would be developed before the first deadline. Other releases providing additional features are foreseen in the following years. These tables present a summary of the core functionalities that are foreseen to be supported by the portal before the end of 2019. The MVP will provide a multilingual and secure web tool for industry to upload and submit their notifications. The MVP will also offer a secure portal for appointed bodies and poison centers to receive and download the notifications. An automated submission process will ensure that submitted files conform to the format specifications. The MVP will also offer a searchable repository containing the full history of the notified data and will support basic user and contact management functions. In its second version, the version 2, the portal will support the online preparation of the notifications using a dedicated web user interface. Web services integration layers will be exposed to both industry and member states' IT systems. The automated submission process could also support more automated business checks. In the following slides, I will present one by one the main features of the portal per actor and indicate for which release they are foreseen. I would like to highlight that this list of functionalities and the current prioritization are a proposal. Based on feedback received by the different stakeholders, we can review the list as well as the priorities. In general, the priorities have been decided based on the time constraints, the requirements expressed by the different stakeholders, the logical order of events, and the readiness preparation expected from the other actors. Let's start now with the features that will be available for all users. Please note that the mockups that you will see on the slides are for illustration purposes only, and the portal may look different when it is released. The MVP will support a simple sign-up procedure through integration with the ECA accounts for user registration and authentication service, as well as roles administration. In the MVP, each actor will have access to a home page with a set of functionalities and the menu will be tailor-made according to the user role. The interface will of course also be available in all EU languages, and search functionalities will be operational. In the second version, support in all EU languages will be extended to online help. This help could be contextual, as shown in the mockup, or provided field by field to the user. In the MVP, all users will have the possibility to access their share of the data, search for the notifications, view, print, and download them. The user may decide to download one or several notifications at a time. The portal will offer a message box to all actors, where users can manage messages received by the portal. In a future release, the portal could support the secure exchange of messages between actors and the possibility to create a task in addition to a message. A task could be, for instance, indicating a need for action by a certain deadline. The MVP will provide a comprehensive audit functionality where selected key business events and actions are logged together with the user initiating the action. In the next slides, I will present the foreseen features specific for industry users in order to support the preparation, validation, update, submission, and management of the notifications. The MVP will offer a web interface for industry to upload and submit the notification files that they have been preparing offline. Those files could be initial notifications or updates of existing notifications. Industry users will also have the possibility to upload and submit multiple files at a time. The MVP will support the possibility to include several member states in one notification and submit it to the relevant member states. The notification can be prepared in the industry user's preferred language and will be made available to the appointed bodies and poison centers in their own preferred language. Only free text field would need to be provided by the user in all relevant languages. Another core feature that will be developed for the second version of the portal is the online wizard, offering the possibility to fill in and submit a notification online. Users will have the possibility to save a draft on their local file system and reopen it later on. The advanced version of the portal could support the saving and opening of an online draft without having to save it on any local system. The second version of the portal will make a tool available to validate a notification file in the portal, offering the possibility to industry to check their files before the actual submission. While the MVP will offer the possibility to submit and update notifications via a web user interface, the version 2 will offer the possibility for industry to perform those tasks via web services. An advanced version of the portal could also support the retrieval of notifications through system-to-systems integrations. As part of the MVP, users will have the possibility to manage their contacts that need to be included in the notification. The contacts can be created, updated, and assigned to specific notifications. In the version 2, tracking dependency between contact records and notifications would be supported to avoid resubmission in some specific cases. Version 2 of the system will also integrate with the ECA substance inventory to provide a level of automation and assistance when the user provides the mixture components. Identifiers such as EC or CAS numbers can be used to retrieve the substance entry. Business checks could also validate the correctness of the identifiers provided by the user. Finally, the portal will also serve to provide support with legal entity changes. We have indicated this feature as advanced for the moment only because it needs further analysis, but it might be decided to prioritize it already for version 2. Let's now have a look at the features specifically foreseen for the appointed bodies and the poison centers. The portal will provide access to the notifications that are relevant to their territory and also to specific national processes. While the MVP will provide access to the notifications through a web user interface and allow appointed body and poison center users to search, view, and download notifications, the second version will be enhanced by offering the possibility to receive the notifications via web services directly into their local systems. All the quality checks will remain at national level. However, the portal could support the related process or communication channels. It could allow appointed bodies to record that a specific notification has been checked and positively inform the industry user of the outcome of the notification, or send a request for clarification in the scope of a reason request. An advanced version of the portal could also provide the possibility to annotate problematic fields in the notification. Invoicing also remains at national level. However, here again, the portal could provide some support and indicate to industry possible fees per member state, or provide reports to member states to support their national invoicing process. The portal's objective is to support the notification process by providing a secure integrated platform where industry actors submit notifications, while member state actors search, access, and retrieve them. In earlier discussions, a number of EU member states expressed their interest on fully relying on ECHA-hosted IT services to replace the need for local IT systems for their appointed bodies or local poison centers. This requires ECHA to offer dedicated IT services to interested member states following bilateral agreement and extend the scope of the centralized portal. Until now, only ideas have been captured, but these services would offer a dedicated environment with increased availability and could provide other advanced functionalities, such as support for advanced search and reporting capabilities, support for recording incident data, or a workflow to support the quality check at national level. However, these functionalities need to be further defined and prioritized according to the needs of the interested member states. To conclude on the foreseen functionalities, this slide summarizes all the earlier mentioned features and provide an overview of what the first 3 versions of the portal would support. But what about the architecture? As mentioned earlier, another main deliverable of the study was to produce a blueprint of a candidate architecture for the new system that fits into ECHA's IT architecture. The main principles that have been followed were the following: reusing as much as possible existing solutions whose effectiveness have already been demonstrated, favoring standard solutions instead of custom ones, and separating concerns between components to allow incremental evolution of the solution. All this needs to fit with the ECHA IT architecture and be delivered within the agreed timelines. The main conclusions led to use the following existing solutions: having standardized formats and therefore making the PCN format compatible with Euclid XML, reusing the ECHA accounts for registering, authenticating, and administrating users and parties, integrating with ECHA substance repositories to support the preparation and validation of the notifications, reusing our reporting platform to support the compilation of reports, and relying on other existing infrastructure elements to support security, virus scan, or email services. In this slide, you can see a high-level representation of the proposed architecture, including the different components that were mentioned. It also shows the integration points with industry and member states' national systems. For industry-appointed bodies and poison centers, this slide would be of interest for your IT providers. Further technical documentation will also be made available. Building a central notification portal will also imply supporting all services that will be related to the development and the functioning of the system. Training material will be made available and on-site trainings will also be organized by ECHA. ECHA will also organize communication and awareness-raising campaigns. Help desk support will be provided to industry in cooperation with the member states, and ECHA will also closely work with the member states to support them with the implementation. We encourage all stakeholders to express their needs to us. To conclude, I would like to first present the high-level timelines and then discuss the next steps. As you can see in this timeline, we are currently located somewhere in the last quarter of 2017, and the legal text was adopted around 7 months ago. The final PCN format is planned to be published in the first quarter of 2018, while the MVP of the portal will be released in the quarter 4 of 2018. The second release of the portal, including the core functionalities, is planned for Q3 2019, and the following release is planned for 2020. The work to prepare for the 2 first releases will have to start as soon as possible to make sure both will be ready according to those timelines. The immediate next steps include the following: to continue and refine the analysis of the needs of the various stakeholders, to finalize the notification format, to develop and agree on validation rules, to continue the analysis of the architecture and the security model. ECHA current security model might need to be adapted to fulfill the needs of industry and member states in the context of the Poison Centers project. The next decisions that will be essential for this project are the next meeting of the member state competent authorities in October, the next Caracal meeting in November, and the ECHA Management Board decision of December. We encourage you all to continue with the preparation for being ready. Member states, you have to decide and inform on the options you want in order to receive and manage the notifications. Will you accept notifications from the PCN portal? Will you need dedicated hosting services in addition to what is offered by the central portal? And for all actors, we encourage you to support the business analysis and express your needs to make sure we develop what you need. And we hope you all start to build capacity to support next year's development phase and get involved in the testing. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And before I hand the floor to Blanca, you can find on this last slide the email address of the Poison Centers team and the address of the Poison Centers website.
Hello, everybody. I am Blanca Serrano, the CLP manager in CEFIC, the European Chemical Industry Council. And I'm here to give you a presentation for industry by industry on how you can prepare for the notification to the poison centers according to Annex 8 of CLP. So first of all, you need to know your obligations, and your obligation is to notify. Who needs to notify? all those importers and downstream users that place mixtures on the market are responsible to notify to the poison centers. What do they need to notify? They need to notify those mixtures that are classified as hazardous for human health or physical hazards. That means that no mixtures classified for environmental hazards need to be notified, or also gases under pressure or explosives. And why is this? That's because the objective of this notification is to provide appropriate emergency response in the case of intoxications, for example, and those mixtures that are only classified for environmental hazard are not going to be need that kind of emergency response. And also physical hazards like gas under pressure or explosive do need a different emergency response than the one that the poison centers can provide. When it is necessary to notify? Well, the deadline depends on the use of your mixture. So those mixtures that are intended for consumer use need to be notified from the 1st of January 2020. Those mixtures that are for professional use need to be notified from the 1st of January 2021. And the mixtures for industrial use need to be notified from the 1st of January 2024. The notification has to be done before the mixture is placed on the market. So not placing it on the market and then do the notification, but do it in advance. Also, there is a transitional period for those mixtures that has been already notified through the national systems in the poison centers, and those mixtures can be notified from the 1st of January 2025 in the new system, unless during that period there is a change in the mixture that requires an update. In that case, you need already to use the new system and identify your deadline according to the use. To notify, you need to use an harmonized poison center notification format that is provided by ECHA in the webpage that is dedicated for the poison centers. And later on in this presentation, you will find the link to it. And where do you notify? This is something that is still being discussed and under development, but the notification or the options we are hoping for is to be able to notify directly to the appointed bodies of the member states where the mixtures is placed in the market, or through the ECHA Poison Center notification portal that is now being developed. You need to submit different kinds of information. First of all, you need to submit general information like a product identifier, that could be the trade name of your product, identifiers of the mixture components, gas number, EC number, Euclid name, or they could be different options. Sometimes it's not possible to provide all of the identifiers, but those that you can. Then you also need to provide a unique formula identifier. This is a new identifier that is created via a tool that is also provided by ECHA in the Poison Center's webpage. This tool uses the VAT from the company and a numeric identifier for your mixture, that it's an identifier, a numeric identifier you would have in-house. So it's your own classification system, let's say. And with this VAT and this numeric identifier, you can generate a unique formula identifier via a web tool. If the company doesn't have a VAT, it's possible to get a, let's say, fake VAT to generate this UFI. And this is because at the end, there is not real correlation between the VAT and the UFI. It's just the VAT is the means to generate a UFI, but there is no numeric correlation that you can identify via the UFI which company it's coming from. You need also to provide the contact details of the submitter as part of the general information. Then the second section, let's say, it's the hazard identification. So you will need to provide the classification of the mixture and the label elements, as well as some toxicological information. This toxicological information can be section 11 of the safety data sheet, or you can add additional information if wanted. Then you need to submit information on the components of the mixtures. So the components of the mixture need to be all identified with their concentration. Even those components that are not classified as hazardous has to be notified. The concentrations can be expressed as exact percentages or as ranges, and the ranges vary depending on the classification of the component. So those components that are more concerning have smaller ranges than other components. And those components with the tighter concentration ranges are those classified as acute toxicity, category 1, 2, and 3, specific target organ toxicity for single and repeated exposure, category 1 or 2, skin corrosion, category 1, 1A, 1B, or 1C, and serious eye damage, category 1. Finally, you need to provide additional information. This additional information regards, for example, the type and the size of the packaging that the mixture is put on the market in, the color, the physical state, and the pH of the mixture. Also, the product category, according to the EU product categorization system, that it's now being, well, let's say finalized by ECHA, but was started by the Commission. This is a categorization system that allows you to place your mixture according to a concrete use in a category or several categories, like, for example, adhesives or construction products, paints, etc., etc. Then you need to identify the general use, let's say consumer, professional, or industrial. And that will be the information that you need to submit for the Poison Center notification. There are, at this point, still discussions ongoing and preparations being made by all the stakeholders involved, and especially ECHA. However, you can start already preparing for the notification. And how can you do that? First of all, you need to know your portfolio. This will help you to identify which mixture will require submission of information to comply with the obligations of Annex 8 of CLP. You need to, once you have identified the mixture that requires submission, you need to identify their uses, if it's consumer, professional, or industrial use, and then you can see which mixture enter in which deadline and prioritize accordingly. For industrial mixture, there is a special regime, and you can do a limited submission of information. This means the information that it's required for industrial mixtures is less than that for consumer and professional mixtures. However, to do that, companies should also provide a telephone number that is available 24 hours, 7 days, and an email address for rapid access in case the appointed bodies or the Poison Center need additional information. Another of the perks, let's say, is you can use some generic identifiers. These generic identifiers are only 3: perfumes, fragrances, and coloring agents. This means that you can group all the components of your mixture that are acting as perfumes as a category, as a generic identifier, and you don't have to specify them, unless the components are classified. You can only use these generic identifiers when the components are not classified for health hazard. Otherwise, you need to specify the components. Also, for perfumes and fragrances, the concentration should not exceed 5% in total. And for coloring agents, the concentration should not exceed 25% in total. It's also possible to do a group submission and submit several products in one go, given that all the mixtures in the group contain the same components and the reported concentration rate is the same for all mixtures, and so is the classification. Then another of the topics is the mixture in mixtures. And I would say this is one of the most complicated issues for the notification. A mixture in mixture is what's called a mixture that is used as a component of another mixture. The manufacturer of this second mixture that has one of the components is a mixture might not know the full composition of this mixture because the supplier, for know-how reasons or confidentiality, might not provide the full composition, but the safety data sheet where you have identified the hazardous components, but not the full composition. What do you do in this case? Well, there are different options. The first one would be to contact the supplier and ask if they could provide you with the complete composition of the mixture. But you might find a no for an answer because this is know-how information from your supplier and they might want to keep it confidential. Then you have another option, that is to provide the information of those components that are known to you and give them the product identifier of the mixture, so the trade name of the mixture that you're using to create another mixture, the concentration that has in your final product, and the UFI that your supplier should have in the package of the mixture that has been sold to you. With this information, it should be enough for the appointed bodies of the Poison Center to retrieve the full composition from the notification of your provider. And then there is a third option, and is that there is no UFI available. There might be different reasons for that to happen. I will not enter into detail, but in that case, you should give the information on the known components of the mixture, the product identifier and concentration of the mixture in mixture, the safety data sheet, name, email address, telephone number of the supplier of this mixture in mixture. So these are the three options that you have to notify a mixture in mixture. To summarize a little bit, how do you get prepared? First of all, time flies, and the first deadline, 2020, might seem far away, but it's not. So start as soon as possible. Identify your mixtures affected by Annex 8 of CLP. Identify the use to determine the deadlines, consumer, professional, or industrial use. Check the composition of your mixture and assign ranges or exact percentages if you please. And remember that different ranges are assigned depending on the classification of the substances. Make sure that the data you have are up to date, and do have a system to monitor and manage changes because they might trigger updates. Consider to set aside budget for the necessary IT tools and resources, also human resources, to fulfill the obligations. And start assigning UFIs to your mixtures. Also, get familiar with the product categorization system, the EU PCS, that defines the mixtures according to the intended uses. It is mandatory to use, and one product can fit in several categories, as we know that chemical products and mixtures sometimes are versatile and have different uses. Well, now we go to the point on how do you submit your product information. And unfortunately, at this point, things are still under discussion. So I can give you more questions of what we are thinking about, what ECHA is thinking about, the Commission and other stakeholders. It's work in progress, the creation of a portal to do the submissions. Also under consideration is if this portal would just be that, a portal where you enter the information and then it's further distributed, or if ECHA will host a database with comprehending all the information. It's also under question if all member states will allow the submission directly to the national appointed bodies. Some of them have confirmed that it is going to be possible. Some have not yet. So these are things that are still under discussion, under question. And also here, as I said at the beginning, I included the link to the web page from ECHA dedicated to poison centers that I'm sure they will provide also more information about it. And in it, you have information about the notification format, the editor, the UFI generator, and some more guidance and information that you can consult. One of the important things is to keep the information up to date. So once you have submitted, work has not finished. When is an update required? When the mixture or the product identifier included the UFI change, or when the mixture classification for health and physical hazard has changed, or when there are new relevant toxicological information available or data that you need to use. And then you have also the possibility of a change of composition in the mixture. This change may trigger an update or a full new notification. So you need to evaluate if the change is requiring only an update or a new notification. Finally, or almost finally, there are some challenges to industry, well, and also to other stakeholders involved. It is a very complex regulation, as everything that is related to chemical regulations. It's always complicated, and it's a new obligation that it's add up with the already existing deadlines, like the last registration in 2018, changes in Euclid that might trigger updates of dossiers, updates in REACH that may change the obligations of the registrants. Also, resources have to be dedicated to fulfill these new obligations, and the training of the employees and support will be critical in the future. Some definitions still need some clarification, or need to be, some decisions need to be taken, let's say. Sometimes it is difficult for a manufacturer of a mixture to know the full supply chain and all the uses along it, for different reasons: confidentiality, for competition law, or simply because supply chains tend to be really complicated, and it's very difficult to map the full supply chain. Timelines are very tight for everyone. That's not only a challenge for industry, it's also a challenge for the Commission, ECHA, and the appointed bodies, I think. New IT tools and guidance will be ready shortly before the entering into force, so there is little time to get acquainted with the system. And there are still some workability issues under discussion on some sectors, like petroleum products and construction sectors, that would be further discussed. One of the important points for us is to preserve confidentiality, both by ECHA, that it's warranted, and all the appointed bodies. And also there are some concerns regarding the fees in some member states, because it creates some competitivity issues. However, I have to say that everybody is working really hard to make things possible and end up with a workable system. So everybody involved is trying to achieve harmonization throughout Europe and get all the member states on the same page and system to provide the information for the emergency response. We're trying to make a collection of data that is useful for everyone, and provide all the stakeholders with the needed support and guidance.
Thank you, Blanca, for the informative presentation. Well, that was the final presentation for today, and we hope you've gained some insight into the current status of notifying hazardous mixtures for poison centres. The webinar is still open for you to submit questions until 12:15 Helsinki time, so please do make use of the Q&A panel. Thank you to all for joining us today. Until next time.